Hi, everyone. So we are continuing our interview series with flight training leaders from around the world. And today I have the pleasure to speak with Alexandre Alves. He's the Chief Commercial Officer of Sevenair Academy, one of the leading flight schools in Portugal, with a fleet of over 22 training aircraft. And the very unique thing about them is they train students from all over the world. Alexander will tell us a bit more about that in a moment. They're also part of a larger group, and this larger group owns an airline, an MRO, and a few other divisions. So Sevenair also has a really good understanding of what potential airline partners will be thinking about when they're thinking about their ab initio pilot training. So thank you for being with us today, Alexandra. And can you tell us a bit more about Sevenair Academy, when you started your operations, and what your current size of your organization is?
Well, thank you, Max, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to share a little bit of what we do to the people that is interested in aviation. So Sevenair, as you mentioned, Sevenair Academy is one of the divisions of Sevenair Group, which is the largest general aviation group in Portugal and one of the largest in Europe. We cover almost all the angles in the industry. We have our own airline, which is specialized in regional aviation. So we do scheduled flights, charter flights, ACMI operations, medevac, and of course we have other divisions like maintenance and engineering and others. And if we go to the foundation of Sevenair Academy, it goes back to 1988 with the first civilian flight school in Portugal. Until 1988, all the pilots trained in Portugal were being trained by the Air Force. And on that year, 2 Air Force pilots decided to create the first civilian school. So with the years, that school was bought by other guys, rebranded, and eventually it became Sevenair Academy, part of Sevenair Group. So we are happy to be here for over 30 years now. And with some people that has been working with us since that day, which is quite interesting. So in the last three and a half years, we have restructured the group, and in particular, Sevenair Academy. We are very much focused on the Portuguese market and on the modular and integrated ATPL programs. And in these last 3 years, we have grown much more than 3 digits, 150%. We are now covering the entire world. We have students from 35 different nationalities. We have in-house today 296 pilot students. And we also do maintenance training. So we are actually one of the largest in Europe. We have around 600 maintenance technician students. So this gives us a very interesting capacity in terms of training. We also decided to expand internationally, not only receiving the students in Portugal to train, but opening a training bases abroad. So we opened almost 2 years, it will be 2 years in September, a training base in Brazil that for now is only doing maintenance technician training, but we are studying the country, and we will also do the pilot training there, or part of the training there, and the rest in Portugal. We started last year, the end of last year, in Cape Verde in Africa, also with the maintenance technician training, but we are now talking with the Civil Aviation Authority to also start doing the pilot training there. And we are now looking at other opportunities. As you mentioned, we are the largest aviation training organization in Portugal, but you know, Portugal is a very small market. It's a small country, 10 million people. It's impossible for an ambitious group like ours just to live with our own domestic market. So we really need to look at the world as our market and to expand. We on our strategy, we defined 3 regions as the natural areas of expansion, which are Southern Europe, so Portugal, Spain, Italy, Africa, and the Middle East. Africa, because we already have a lot of African students, mostly coming from the Portuguese-speaking African countries like Angola or Mozambique or Cape Verde, but also from other countries. And the Middle East, because actually after the Portuguese students, the Middle Eastern students are the number 2 group of students that we have in terms of number. We have quite a few, covering all the countries in the Middle East, from Egypt to the UAE, from Syria to Lebanon, Jordan, all of them. So these 3 regions are the ones we defined as our focus for our expansion strategy. Regardless of that, we are always open to receive and to look into new opportunities. That's why we decided to go to Brazil. It was an opportunity that came. We analyzed it, we studied, the numbers were good, and it's been 2 years that we've been there, and it's going very well. So having said this, it doesn't mean that you will not see Sevenair opening soon in Asia or in other region. It may happen. In terms of size, you were mentioning also the fleet. So we actually did in these last, as I was telling, these last 3 years of restructuring the group, we did a very large investment on also restructuring the fleet. We had an old fleet, like most of the schools that we see in all the countries, flying old Cessnas or Pipers or the usual training aircrafts. And in the last 2.5 years, we bought 15 brand new airplanes from Tecnam. We already are buying more. We actually have 1 more twin engine already produced in the factory in Italy, just waiting for this limitation of flights to be lifted so we can pick it up. And we intend to increase the fleet slowly. We have plans to expand our twin engine fleet. We have 3 right now. We plan to have 5 in the next 1.5 years. So slowly we are investing in upgrading the fleet with brand new glass cockpit airplanes. Also simulators. We recently announced on an exhibition in Europe that we purchased an Alcim ALX simulator to increase our capability. We already have an Alcim sim, an AL200 that we've been using for some years. And this restructuring and expansion project is going to be complete with the new facilities that we are planning to have in Portugal. So we are going to invest quite a lot of money in brand new buildings, new hangars, and probably a secondary training location on another aerodrome that maybe will allow us to double our capacity.
Because I think I just want to mention a point that I know about your academy and group as well. So even though we're talking about your expansion, what I know of Sevenair, what you've told me before, is that you are actually limiting the intake currently on a yearly basis to really focus on the safety and the high quality of training aspect and a number of other factors. So this is also, even though you have demand for a lot more signups, at this point you are still, limiting the intake, and this has also helped you achieve a number of different goals. So do you just want to explain kind of your thinking around it and your current position?
Sure. Again, for us, the quality of what we do is the most important, and that's why in such a short period of time we managed to be a recognized name in the market. If we go any country in Europe, or even if you go to the Middle East or these areas that I told you, Sevenair and Sevenair Academy in particular is already a very known name. And why? Because of the quality. We are very strict with the quality of what we do. That's why we decided to invest in new equipment, because we realized that we were not giving the proper quality to our students. They are paying a lot of money and training in very, very old airplanes. Even the old airplanes that we still keep in our fleet, we are refurbishing them completely and even installing new avionics. So we will see a Cessna 152 with over 30 years, but we will see it with a semi-glass cockpit, because we are investing on that. but the quality also needs to be with the materials that you provide, not only the equipment, but the books that you provide to the students, the instructors that you hire to give the training to your students. So all aspects of the business. And a key aspect that we see other schools making an error from time to time is to not limit themselves. We were until this crisis of the coronavirus, we were facing probably the biggest increase in the aviation history in terms of pilot demand, number of passengers traveling, and so on. And because of that, because the demand was so high, all the schools were accepting a lot of students. It's very easy to get 50. Any small school that you see, at least in Europe, gets 50 students a year very easily. If you are a little bit bigger, you can get 100, 200, even more. The problem is not accepting the students, is to complete their training in due time, because the students, they have a limitation of 36 months to complete the training. And we want them to complete the training, not in 36 months, but much quicker than that, the quickest possible, so they can go into the market and start working as pilots. That's what they want. And what we see is the schools making that mistake, accepting, which I would call easy money, because the students are paying, accepting a number of students much higher than their capability to train them. And then the students don't complete the training in due time, and eventually that will end up in students going to court, judicial lawsuits. They will ask refunds, and we saw in the past, in previous crises, and I think we are starting to see now a lot of schools having problems because of that. So for us, that the perception of the quality of everything we do with our customer, which is our student, is important. So we decided to limit our intakes per year to 110 students. Actually, a little bit less, it's 108. So we have 4 seasons per year. We open a season in January, another in May, another in September, and another in November. September and November, because in Europe, and in particular in Portugal, in September is usually the startup of the school year. It's easier to get more students. They complete high school, and then instead of going to the university, they apply to a flight school, for example. So in September and in November, we have 2 classes instead of 1. So altogether, we have 4 seasons, 6 classes of 18 students each, which makes 108. And that's it. We limit ourselves to that. With the number of instructors we have right now, which is comfortable, with the number of airplanes, with the number of students we have in-house, which is quite a lot, we would be providing a poor quality service if we would take more than this. That's why I mentioned previously, we are studying to expand our facilities, to have new hangars, new buildings, and probably open a secondary training base. With that, then we can increase, because buying airplanes, it's easy. And honestly, we actually didn't have any problem hiring flight instructors so far, compared with other schools. So we can also get the flight instructors, but we need to do it carefully and with the planned thought, and not just accepting everybody. So maybe next year, because we are not stopping our investments and our expansion plan, maybe we will open next year the secondary training base, and then we will increase the number of intake students. But for now, this is our own limitation, our self-imposed limitation.
So I think that's really a fantastic point that you've made. So that while over the past year, while there's been record growth in the market, the expansion that you've done and the investment that you've done is really into your existing facilities, into your training, into your infrastructure, which now most probably also puts you in a really good position to make it through this crisis, and now use this time and the resources that you have kept over this time, and allocated quite strategically to now use it quite efficiently, and not have 300, 400 students in the pipeline, which now are also worried, okay, are they going to get a job towards the end? coming to that point, so what are your current operations like? I know just a few days ago you have announced that actually it's one of the first schools in Europe that I've seen the announcement made that you're going to restart operations again. Just tell us a bit more about how COVID has affected you for the past kind of 2 months, and what you've implemented, and now what's going to happen moving forward.
Yeah. Well, it affected everybody. Nobody was expecting that an invisible enemy would attack us like this. We were facing, as I mentioned earlier, probably the biggest growth in the industry ever, and nothing would expect that suddenly everything would stop from one day to the other. What we did, we are still a small group, even though in general aviation, in training, we are of a considerable size compared to the big airlines or the big MROs. We are very small, but that makes us very flexible. So our size allows us to react and adjust very quickly. 1 week after everything was frozen in Portugal, we were already with the online classes almost. We presented very quickly. We prepared the platform using Zoom platform, but also supported by other online and web-based platforms and CBTs. We presented that solution to our CAA. They took a little bit to analyze it, and they accepted. So we were the first school to reinitiate our ground school classes online. After that, other schools followed that process, but so we were the first one. And because of that, some of the students had different reactions, but after the classes restarted, everybody's very happy. I would say it will be more difficult for them to come back to the school and have the classes in school than what they are doing, because they are at home. It's easier for them. The platform works well, so we are happy with that.
Yeah.
Results are very good for that. And so at least with that, we managed to reduce a little bit our the areas where we were being affected.
Yeah.
We also, almost all the airports and aerodromes in Portugal were under lockdown or with severe limitations, and are still, most of them with severe limitations. But we managed to keep our maintenance division working. Yeah. We adjusted the roster of the crews, implemented a mitigation plan that included a lot of safety measures for them, the use of masks, mandatory masks, the disinfectant gel, and all those measures that we'll see everybody implementing. But we did it very quickly. So we are very happy that at least our maintenance division never stopped working. And during this period, we actually took the time to refurbish some of the planes, did all the work that needed to be done in the fleet. So we have the entire fleet ready to fly tomorrow if necessary, which is quite good. And we actually started working on other airplanes. Having more than 30 years, Sevenair has a lot of, we bought companies, and we actually grew more through acquisitions than with organic growth. The organic growth came in the last 3.5 years, but until now it was only mainly through acquisitions. And with those acquisitions, we have quite a few airplanes stored in warehouses that we didn't know what to do with them, and we didn't have the time to work on them. So we started doing that. So we have maybe 3 or 4 Cessna 152 that we are refurbishing, and our maintenance teams were fully working during this time, which is good. The main issue was the flights, of course. Everybody was grounded. Our airline was also not very much affected, which is good. We were in Portugal. We do a public service route. Yeah. So it's a public concession, and because it's a public service, we continue to fly during this period. Of course, with limitations, but at least we were providing the flight. And it was a surprise for us. We had quite a few requests for charter and cargo transportation. So we did some repatriation flights from Algiers to Portugal, Morocco, and some cargo flights. So we adjusted and adapted very quickly. It was something that we are not used to do. we didn't. I believe we haven't done any cargo flights up to date, so we just did that. So the only area that was really affected was the flight training part. So all our students that are on the flying phase are at home doing nothing, and we are having 22 airplanes grounded and the simulator without being used. That was actually the most affected area. What we did 2 weeks ago, we presented the letter to our government and to our CAA, informing them that we were ready to start flying yesterday on the 4th of May. The emergency state in Portugal was lifted on May the 3rd, on Sunday. It was the last day of the emergency state. So since yesterday, things are slowly opening in Portugal through phases. Some of the businesses, general business, are opening now with restrictions. Some will open in 15 days, others 1 month later. So it's a slow, step-by-step opening of the economy. But we decided 2 weeks ago to inform that we were fully ready to open. Because we did, also for the flight part, we decided to create a mitigation plan or a safety plan. We bought special disinfectant products. So the idea is after a training flight, all the airplane will be disinfected by our maintenance people. Mandatory use of gloves, all those kind of procedures. But the most, and I think the aspect that probably differentiates more is that our partner, Tecnam Aircraft, decided to, with the crisis in Italy where they are based, decided to produce special masks, specially designed to be used in the aircraft. So they cover the complete face. They are made of composite materials. They are certified by the health authorities in Italy and European health authorities. So when they approached us with this product, we were the first to order. Even before they were certified, we ordered 250 masks for our students and instructors. They will be delivered tomorrow, hopefully, if the logistics doesn't fail us. And with all these procedures and others, and especially this mask, because the mask is designed in a way that the air doesn't, when you expire, the air doesn't go to the sides, goes to the back. So there is no way of passing things to the instructor or the instructor to the student. So with all of this, I think we are in very good conditions to start flying. We were hoping to have the okay to start flying yesterday, but unfortunately we didn't get it. All our airplanes are fully ready, as I mentioned. Our students are more than ready. They are calling us every day, wanting to know when they will start flying again. We are just waiting for the clearance from the authorities to fly. It can come tomorrow, it can come next Monday. We don't know. We are putting some pressure on them and showing them that honestly, we don't see our mitigation and safety plan is actually quite large and quite thorough. And with all of that we implemented, I don't see why not we shouldn't restart our flights. Every month that we are grounded costs us quite a lot of money, you can imagine. And in particular the students, because they have an idea, an expectation of completing their course in a certain period of time, and it's already extending. Our CAA, I believe others probably did the same, extended the period of their training. So this month that they are grounded are not being consumed to the 36 months. So they're going to have an add-on to but they want to fly the quickest possible, of course. I would say maybe 2,000 hours per month. That's what we should be doing. So we've been grounded for 2 months, so it's 4,000 hours that we lost. And every day it's adding on, so it's a lot. It's quite a lot.
So this is the, as soon as I saw you make this announcement of these masks, I was very much curious as to what exactly these were, because these are not your usual surgical face masks. So I just wanted to ask, when you went initially with your mitigation plan to the government and to your local CAA, did that already include this mask solution?
I lost you. Sorry,
Oh,
Max. Can
yeah.
you repeat? I lost the
Okay,
connection.
yeah.
Sorry.
So my question really was, as soon as I saw the announcement that you made about these masks, I was very curious about it, and I know I've received a lot of questions from flight schools around the world, especially in countries where the government or CAA hasn't given yet any indication of when they can open again. So my question was, when you initially went to the local CAA, did your mitigation plan already include these special masks? And do you think it was also
Yes.
something which assisted you in kind of showing that you have some really strict mitigation and safety policies in place?
Yes, yes, for sure, for sure. Yeah, when we presented, the masks were already included and a big part of the plan. Because as I mentioned, these masks were designed and produced specifically to be used on training airplanes, where the two pilots are very close to each other.
Yeah.
And they suffered a very strict certification process in Italy by the health authorities, by the civil protection authorities, and quality ISO protocols and all of that. So of course, and because we were the first approaching the government with this solution, I have to tell you, all the other schools in Portugal and even in Spain has come to us and asked us to more questions about the masks and how can they buy the masks and how can they use them, because they all see the capability of them, and in terms of protection, they are much more protective of the person than if you compare with the standard cloth or surgical mask. And even so we are seeing now some, call it visors or something that just protect your ear, but the air comes from below, so you always need to use that with the surgical mask. And with this, you just need to use this. It's very light. It's very easy to use also with the headsets. So in terms of communications, there is no loss of the sound, which is something very important because they're going to use it during the flight. And the feedback that we had from the authorities, actually our CAA, I have to tell you, they've been very flexible throughout this period. A lot of people always complains about the authorities. The CAA in all the countries are the worst, and everybody, it's a common speech that everybody has. But I have to tell you, they have been very comprehensive and very flexible. And if you do things with quality and if you present all the information in a proper way, they analyze it and they answer quickly. And from their side, honestly, things were very good. The feedback was also very quick, and the clearance also. We are just waiting for the problem with the I don't know, some other countries. I know some European countries. I know very well Spain and Portugal, and the aerodromes, they usually belong to the cities, the local governments. The airspace is managed by a different company. The CAA is a different organization. So to have the clearance from all those different regulators or institutions or organizations, it takes time. It's difficult to manage, and that's why we are not flying yet. But we hope to, in the next couple of days, we hope to start flying.
So let me ask you, because now that we've talked about it, I already know that there will be really a lot of flight schools. So for example, on Aviation Fly, we cover over 300 flight schools, and we've been getting a lot of questions about this. So is this mask specifically, can it only be used by Tecnam aircraft, or can it be used by any training aircraft? And is it possible for people to reach out to you? We're definitely going to include your LinkedIn profile and all of that. So is it possible for flight schools to reach out to you to find out more about, like, for example, are you selling these, or are you helping other flight schools as well acquire these?
Yeah, sure, sure. So Tecnam, they are a manufacturing company, airplane manufacturing company, but they are specialized in composite airplanes. So they started with ultralights, and then they started evolving to larger airplanes like the twin engines, and now the recent P2012, which is a bigger airplane. But because they are very much specialized in working with composites, when they saw this huge crisis in their country, in Italy, they were one of the worst countries in Europe in terms of number of um, dead people and people that were contagious with the virus. They decided to use all that engineering and composite production capability to enter in this new segment. So they created a new division inside Tecnam that is producing these masks and certifying them. And we are Tecnam dealers in Portugal, so we are working very close to them. And of course, people, if they want, they can contact us or contact directly Tecnam, and for sure, either us or them will provide information, technical information in terms of pricing. I have to tell you that it's not a cheap mask because it's not a disposable mask. It's a reusable, long-term equipment. And because of the certification, it costs a little bit more than these usual masks because it's certified for that. It can be used in any airplane. And not only in airplanes, we are having a request from dentists, for example. The dental industry, they also they suffered a lot. They were one of the first industries being closed down with this problem, and they are looking for solutions that can protect them. They are very close, the doctor to the patient, and we've been approached by quite a few dental clinics and doctors looking for this particular product. The idea, I have to tell you, for us in Portugal, in Spain, that because we work a lot with the Spanish market. Our customers there, in particular our maintenance division works a lot with the largest flight schools in Spain, and we provide not only avionics but overall of their piston engines. So we have a close relationship with them, and most of them ask us information about that. And they don't fly Tecnams, they fly Cessnas or Pipers. And so it's a mask that can be used in any circumstance. It was created for this purpose of being used inside an airplane, but can be used in other industries. It's not a cheap product because of the certification, and another thing that it's important, and that's what we are trying to do with the Spanish and Portuguese customers, is to have a large quantity to be purchased, because the transportation is expensive, in particular at this time where you don't have a lot of solutions in terms of transportation. So cargo is probably, in terms of aviation, one of the few things that is still growing during this crisis. We see a lot of airplanes being converted from passengers to cargo airplanes. And even the road and rail cargo has been suffering with less offer compared to the high demand. And because of that, prices are high. So what we are trying to do, we're trying to have the largest number possible of orders, and then we can reduce a little bit the cost of shipping and freight. But if anybody is interested, they can contact me directly. Okay. That's not a problem.
Okay, definitely. Because that's what I'm thinking as well. All the flight schools that we cover, I know some markets very specifically where flight school owners and CEOs are worried that they will not be allowed to fly for another couple of months. And so what we'll certainly do is we'll try to speak with them, and then as an industry on a country basis, maybe they want to get in contact with you or Tecnam directly, and place a larger order, which will hopefully help them in just making flying safer. So coming to the point, where do you think what is your forecast? What is your prediction? I know everyone says it's not good to speculate at the moment, but I'm feeling as we're already coming out of some more severe lockdowns, there's a bit more visibility of where we are heading. So please, it would be great if you can share your opinion of where we're going to go from here, both as an industry and for you as an organization.
Well, as you mentioned, it's you need a crystal ball to guess what's going to happen. I think in the industry in general, it's not going to be the same in all regions of the world. We've seen this in the past, in the previous crisis, when, for example, when Europe was completely down, the market was almost zero. We were looking at South America or Asia, and they were growing. So the world was not at the same rhythm at that time. And I think with this crisis, it will be the same. We are already seeing some signs of that with Asia, and we've discussed that before. There are good signs from China, from Vietnam, maybe from India, as you mentioned before. So I believe those countries will have probably a different recovery rhythm than Europe or the United States. Even if you look at today, if you look at Europe, I would say maybe 80% of the flights are grounded. If you go to the United States, it's 50% or 40%, 45, between 40 and 50%. So even today, it's not completely the same. The impact in the industry is not the same. What we know that the entire industry is affected. I believe Europe will be the most affected, mostly because we have a lot of small operators in terms of airlines, and we have a lot of small schools, if we're talking about the training area. And they are not so prepared, or they probably, most of them, and if you look at some of the airlines that we know that are closing, or they will probably close in the next months, they were not financially sane before. Look at Alitalia. Alitalia has been bankrupt for 30 years, but they're still struggling. So I imagine that the airlines that were good financially, the largest ones and the ones that were well managed and with money, they will probably reduce their capacity for the next year and a half, but they will come up stronger after that. But we will see some smaller operations or smaller airlines going bankrupt. But you know, crises are good. Not everybody is affected, but they are good to clean up some mess that we have in the economy. I know it's some people can find art to say this, but everybody suffers for a while, but sometimes it's good because we learn, we clean up the industry, and we have to come up better, all of us. We have to come up with better quality, different procedures. We have to evolve after this. And again, when I told you that in Sevenair we are flexible, I think that's one of the keys. That we are not concerned. We were already predicting a downturn of the industry in 2021, and we were preparing for that. It came up earlier and actually stronger than we were expecting, but we were expecting a downturn in the industry. It's normal. It's everybody that's in the industry knows that it's cycles, usually 10-year cycles. If it's, as I was saying earlier, if we see it as I predict, the cycles not being exactly the same in all regions of the world, the industry will come up stronger. If we have a crash at the same time all over the world, that will be harder, but I don't expect that. And the signs that we are having now coming from Asia, that is recovering quicker, don't show us that. So I would say we will have regions in the world more affected than the others. And for companies like ours, and going to the second part of your questions, how will we face the near future? Companies like us that have the entire world as their market will suffer less than the ones that are only focused on their domestic market. I predict some schools in Portugal, which is our main market and our headquarters, will be in bad conditions, in bad shape, because the domestic market, usually if you go to Spain or Portugal or Germany, all these smaller European countries, and I say smaller when compared to the United States or China or India, large economies, when the main airline in your country hires, it moves all the industry domestically. It's normal. Yeah. So if Lufthansa is not hiring, probably the number of German students going into the flight schools is lower. The same in Portugal. If TAP is not hiring anymore, we will see less Portuguese students going to the schools. and the same in Spain, Iberia, and so on. So those schools very much focused in their domestic markets will suffer the most. The aviation academies like ours, that as I told you, we have 35 different nationalities in-house. We want to keep and increase this number. So we will try to continue to get students from different areas and different regions. And we are going to focus more on those countries that will recover first than ours and in Europe. So I don't predict that we'll have that much of a problem. I have to tell you, if we don't get any students in the next 2.5 years, we are okay, because we are completely full in-house today. We have students in-house to train for the next 2.5 years. We have 2020 completely sold out, and we sold it in October 2019. So this year was completely sold out. So we are already working in the last 3 months for 2021. So we will not change that much our plan, our strategy. Until now, we will probably adjust some things, and I will explain what we will adjust. Until now, and because of these numbers, we were very much focused on the integrated ATPL. Probably we will need to focus more on other type of training. Probably go back and do some modular ATPL. I believe that we will have more people looking for the modular training than the integrated, because the modular, they don't need to spend that much amount of money at the first stage, so they can do it slowly. They can do the PPL and the ATPL theory and then see how the market goes. While with the ATPL, you have a compromise immediately for a large amount of money and for 36 months. And I also believe that because the airlines will not hire so many pilots as they were doing until now, they will still hire, because they were still going to be pilots retiring. They will still need to hire people. They will hire in less numbers. And because some of the airlines are going bankrupt, there are quite a few experienced pilots on the market. So of course they will hire those guys first and non-experienced pilots later. So I would say we will see also a growth in the pilots that will look to buy our building programs, renew their licenses. Because of the number of students, year and a half, we have suspended our license renewals. Until a year and a half ago, we were doing around 200 license renewals per year. So I think we will probably go back to that as well. I will see, I think that we'll probably see also a lot of these recently graduated pilots looking to become flight instructors. Something that until very recently was very hard to get. They will not get jobs, so they will need to build hours and build experience. So I think we're going to have also an increase in that. And it will, I would say, in 1 year and again, growing at the same rhythm that we were growing until the coronavirus hit us. So then we will go back to what we were used to do this until now. The thing is that the people that is interested in becoming pilots and they have this passion and they really want to do it, they shouldn't cancel this dream or stop the project. Because if they start training this year or next year, they will have at least 2 years. I think nobody expects that the crisis is still going on, and I believe the industry will be fully recovered. So, but that's something that is normal with the crisis. When the industry is booming, everybody wants to become a pilot, but when the industry is down, nobody wants to. But it's a cycle, so they should continue applying to the training, and they should continue going to the schools and keep the dream going, because they will be very much needed in very short periods of time. And the other thing that, again, in the pilot training will be the MPL. So we have been in the past doing MPL programs for some airlines. We have also stopped that because we were very much focused on the ATPL integrated courses. But we've been approached by some airlines, and we are probably going to restart to do that, working with some of the airlines to provide the core phase of the MPL, so the flying part of that. We'll see. I think because of our flexibility, we are very open to what the market asks us. So we react very, very quickly. If an airline comes to us and says, I want to do an MPL program with you, and okay, we are ready to do it. Or if they say, okay, I want to do a cadet program with ATP, okay, we are also ready to do it. Or just do it for the business to consumer customers. I see some of the biggest players in the industry very much focus on the business to business customers, and they are not taking care of the business to consumer customers anymore. And I see the smaller operators only taking care of the business to consumer and not taking care of the business to business. I believe we should take care of both equally and to balance that. Because of course, the margins on the B2C are much higher, of course, but the B2B gives you a more stable income of an outflow, an inflow of students. And so if a company and a school like ours manages to have this balance, B2C, B2B, domestic and international students, I think we are in good conditions to overcome any crisis. So as I mentioned when I started answering your question, we are not stopping our expansion plan. We were already preparing for a downturn of the industry. So we will continue the plan that we implemented actually 1 month ago. It was not long ago. And of course, we will need to oversee it more carefully. And but I think honestly, the next 2 to 3 weeks will be probably the key to what everybody's going to do, because these upcoming weeks will be the ones that most of the governments will decide what to do with their airlines. If they will invest money, if they will nationalize them, if they will just provide a guarantee in return of us or stock options or something. So after these 2 to 3 weeks, I believe the industry will be clearer. The future of the industry will be clearer, and everybody can think a little bit what should they expect of the industry and what the industry will expect from them.
Well, it's I just found it so interesting to hear about your flexibility, also what you're looking at in terms of modular and instructor courses and all of that. I think quite a few schools are going to find that quite interesting also to position themselves. One with the international student intake, that will all, of course, depend on when international travel restrictions will be lifted. So just to conclude, based on everything that you've said as well, and you being active in so many different fields, are there any stakeholders that you ideally would like to connect more with, or who you would like them to reach out to you to see how they can assist you in your current operations or in the current plan you have in place for 2020 and 2021?
Well, as you know, we are in some different countries already, and with this strategy that I told you, that with the regions that we mention areas, doesn't mean that we don't want to go to other areas. So I'm honestly, with that flexibility that we have, we are pretty much open to get contacts from anybody. It can be an airline looking for training partners, not only for pilots, but also for maintenance technicians, flight dispatchers, or cabin crew, because we cover all those angles of the industry. One thing that we are very open to do is to provide ground training on their own country, and just provide the flight training gear. So we are flexible to that point. It's not easy. The certifications, they are not easy, but we are used to this. So for us, because we have done this module previously, so we know what to do, and we are actually becoming experts on doing this. So it can be an airline contacting us. It can be another school wishing to partner and building capacity, for example. It can be schools or looking for a
conversion
MRO
program
supplier or a partner. So we're actually, sorry?
Or an EASA conversion program partner.
For example, we are actually doing that. Honestly, we do that, but we again, because so far we were so much focused on the huge number of integrated ATP students. We are not promoting the other trainings that we have for pilots, but we also do conversions. We have I would say 90% or more of our conversion students are captains flying. So they are a lot of, they have a lot of hours. They don't need to pass through an ATO, because if you are already an ATPL unfrozen, you can go directly and self-propose yourself to the exams with the CAA. But most of them, they haven't studied the ATP program for more than 15 years, probably. So they ask us for the support on that. So not only provide the manuals, but the support to do some classes just to remember the subjects and all of that. So yeah, probably that. Conversion is important. You know, EASA is, and I still believe it will be, and even more in the future, the reference in terms of licenses. We see some countries, particularly in Africa, that are they were working under their basis of their regulation was FAA. So they were pretty much working under FAA regulation. And we are looking at them changing to EASA regulation. We see that with Cape Verde, for example, and other countries. So EASA is still a very important license. It will be, continue to be. I see ourselves expanding in the future to Asia, to the Middle East, opening locally, ground school, maybe the flying part later on. It will depend on how the market reacts. We can do it with partners. I would prefer to do it with partners. We have ourselves, we have this idea that we don't want to go to other countries and just try to teach those countries what to do, because they know their country better than us. They know how the people works, they know how the people think. So if we go to a different country, and that's what we have done in Brazil or in Cape Verde, we go with local partners. So we are pretty much open to any contact, any idea, honestly.
Fantastic.
We are very ambitious, and so we like ambitious people.
Okay. Perfect. So really thank you for your insights, Alexandra. I already know that there's going to be a lot of people who will most probably reach out to ask for more information about specifically these face masks for training aircraft. And I really wish you the best of luck. I'll keep my fingers crossed that you can restart operations tomorrow or the day after, or
Yes.
as soon as possible. And really, it sounds like Sevenair Academy is well positioned for this current complex time. And so if anyone is looking for a partner to go into flight training, or in their home country, or into MRO, or into any of the other activities that Alexander has mentioned, please do reach out to him. So yeah, thank you, Alexander.
Thank you, my pleasure.